Welcome to PMO HotHouse. It's a monthly PMO show, and we're back. It's been a long month, but let's see what we got lined up for today. Ooh, it's those flames at the end. I wish
I love the big pow explosion. Wakes me up on a Friday lunchtime.
I tell you what, it's nearly okay, and it should be warming up, but it isn't. So any fires are welcome. We've got another great show lined up. But first of all, my co-host John, how are you doing? You all right?
I am fabulous. It is good to see you, Lindsay. I'm feeling a bit inadequate looking at your background. I feel very, very underdressed with my just blurred background. I will do better next month. I quite like the flames thing going on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Eileen, how are you? You all right?
I'm not too bad. I think I'm looking forward to a long bank holiday weekend to do a bit of kind of rest and recuperation after being out and about an awful lot this week. So that'll be nice to have a bit downtime.
Yeah, well, anybody who's joining us who's not from the UK, we've got the first of many bank holidays, it feels like, in May. We've got also one coming up next weekend, which of course is King Charles. King Charles coronation, but yeah, we've got another one coming up this Monday. Thank goodness. It feels like we're due for another little rest before we crack on into the summer. So if you are joining us, please do make sure you open up your meeting chat, say hello, let us know where you are. We always love to see where people are in the world, in the UK. So what we've got on today, we're going to be looking at Out and About, which is where we've been actually out and about, and share some of your PMO insights that we've been learning about. We've got a different poll this time, what's hot and what's not. We've also got a lovely guest in our hot seat, and it's going to be just wrapping up with Blaze of Glory. So let's crack on. Next slot, yeah. That intro, it makes us feel really cool. Anyway, let's have a look at the first one. What's being
will be a Victoria Line service calling at all stations to Walthamstow Central. Please stand behind the yellow line as the train approaches. Use the full length of the platform and let customers.
So hi, the House of PMO is out and about this week, and we are at a joint event really with the Association for Project Management, and it's all about the potential frictions between PMO and delivery teams, but more crucially it's about the benefits of friction, which I think is a key thing there. So Eileen's going to be doing the main talk, so let's see how she gets on.
Is bad behaviour, but we'll talk about a couple of things in terms of the potential causes of friction, and I will touch on just a couple of aspects of negative impact.
So on reflection, just thinking about the session, a lot of it is actually about behaviours. It's not about what the PMO does and doesn't do, or project delivery teams do or don't do. It is a kind of lesson for us all that all of our interactions and working together, we're all working to the common good, we're all on the same side. And yes, friction is good because it helps us move on, it helps us create new ideas, it helps us work through problems together. So yeah, a lot of the session was about actually thinking about our behaviours. So we dipped into some of the competency framework, we looked at some bits from authentic leadership, and also a book from APM that we weren't aware of before, but Eileen have referenced that as well, and here it is. So all in all, a really good session. There's some really good feedback from both camps, really, from PMO people as well as project managers, program managers, change managers that were there in the room. Some of them walking away with a completely different perspective about PMO, and just everybody just really enjoying being in the room. Lots of energy, lots of discussion, and great to be out and about. Okay, so that was that session. We did record it. Okay, it was me on recording, so it might look a bit amateurish, but you can certainly hear Eileen in full flow. So we'll be sharing that next week. So let's have a look at what else we've been up to. It was indeed, John. There was a bit of serious Lego playing there. There's lots of, internal and external speakers. We were really lucky to be invited along. It's always fascinating to get into the ins and outs of other people's PMOs. And at Parliament UK, they have a number of PMOs for different areas of the business. And of course, who wouldn't want to be, in a building like that, wandering around, grateful to being having lunch and being able to see some of the MPs. It's fascinating. But from a PMO,
didn't you recognise somebody in there, Lindsay?
I did. It was hilarious. We were just finishing up lunch, and I was walking back towards the room that we were in, and I recognised a guy at the chair, and I thought it was part of Carol's team. It was actually the Speaker of the House. But we
knew his face from somewhere.
Yeah. So, it's what is interesting about that is it was their first time of doing something bigger. They do, obviously have their meetups in terms of their PMOs and things, but doing something across Parliament like that. But also, there are people that will come in and speak to your team. There's a lot of people in the PPM and PMO community that would love to come in and do something like that. So if you are thinking about getting a little bit bigger with some of your community of practice type events, when you reach out to us, we could certainly, if it's not us coming in, we can certainly help you pinpoint, put you in the right direction of other people that might want to come and help you. Okay, and the final one is Eileen.
So here we are, out and about this week. So we've done lots of travelling this week to London, round and about, had an event with APM, a day with the Houses of Parliament at their Community of Practice, and today at Project Challenge. So Project Challenge has been going for a long time, but it's kind of new iterations with some new owners. And it's been, do you know what's been really great? It's just meeting up with people, but you do forget how tiring it is and how much information you're taking in when you're meeting with people and talking with people, and particularly a group of people. What we do a lot of the time when we're on Zoom is there tends to be one conversation happening all the time. Since you've got a group of people together, there's 2 or 3 or even 4 conversations taking place at the same time. So now, very tired, heading home, but looking forward to seeing you all at the HotHouse PMO.
And here she is, our PMO. You're tired today, aren't you, Duck?
Oh, I think we all are. Yes. Do you know? It really is. When we're on Zoom and we kind of think, we try and replicate the same as kind of being face to face, but there is only one conversation. There tends to be one person speaking at one time. When you go out there and you meet with people, there's like loads of things going on in the background, and it really is kind of sensory overload when you're not used to it for a long time. But we met some kind of great people, some people for the first time. It's really quite interesting. People say, "Oh, I recognise you off YouTube," kind of PMO. So lots of people kind of come up and talk about all different types of things, from kind of, as you mentioned, their community of practice, but things that they're looking in terms of kind of development, or things about that they're looking for in some of the tools. But there was some really good talks, wasn't there, John? There was some interesting talks about kind of how to kind of look at your career through different perspectives rather than a straight line. So that was an interesting one to go through as well.
The guy that did that talk was awesome.
Absolutely.
He had charisma, stage presence. He was funny. He was witty. I could listen to him all day.
So I think there's quite a few bits have popped up on LinkedIn from the event as well. So hopefully some of it will be available after the event for you to catch up on.
Yeah, so we recorded the APM event, and we also recorded Eileen doing her slot at the Community of Practice Day at Parliament UK. We obviously also took a lot of other things away from that Parliament Day. One of them is going to come up very shortly, but we will certainly be, bits that we can share. But we were lucky enough to listen to Mrs. Blackrod. I know that's not her proper name, Mrs. Lady of the Black Rod, is it, or something? So she was the person that was behind the whole laying in state of the Queen. Fascinating to listen to stories like that, but yeah, so the bits that we can share we'll be sharing with you next week. So without further ado, let's move on to sometimes this is a struggle. Yeah, thank you very much, Eileen. It is Lady Usher of the Black Road. Fab outfit indeed. Sometimes this is a struggle, isn't it, John? But you've come good.
It is, yes. A struggle coming up with a new one. I think the first couple of these, it was easy to come up with a hot or not, and then suddenly realised it was like I was thinking of the same things again. It's like, no, I can't do that hot because I did that one before. I can't do AI. We've done that one, so yeah, I really had to rack my brains this time. But I've got a couple of good ones, I think. This one's me, isn't it? 4-day week. So yeah, this is a crazy time for people in the UK. We've got, I think, three weeks of I think 3 of the next 4, 3 of the next 5 weeks are all going to be 4-day weeks for us, because we've got 2 bank holidays plus the additional one for the King's coronation. Anyone who has a regular meeting with somebody on a Monday, you're not going to see that person for a very, very long time. And anyone who's got kids will find there's a whole lesson that they're missing out on for months as a result of it. But I wanted to, as well as sort of that being sort of slightly disruptive to our regular routines, there's been a UK-wide trial that's been going on with several organisations, I think 61 of them across the UK, actually trying out working a 4-day week, where they cut everyone down to just 4 days of work in a week, kept everyone's salaries the same, just to see how it worked. And those organisations found that basically it worked really well. Productivity didn't go down, despite them having 20% less working hours in the week. And all out of those 61, all but 5 of them have actually chosen to carry on with that arrangement with their staff. So the staff were happier, they get more quality time, and they found people during those 4 days were more focused and more organised and more disciplined about what they were doing as a result of it. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I think that'll be a conversation over the next few weeks as organisations are kind of forced into this 4-day working week across the bank holidays, whether it's something that they learned from this trial that happened and whether more organisations go that way. It could be interesting.
John, if you can just drop your link in, that'd be fab, that you sent through earlier, so people can go and have a little read.
Absolutely.
So Eileen, communities of practice.
Yes, there seems to be an influx of people kind of getting back into the swing of communities of practice, and I know we're kind of supporting a couple of those. But what's really interesting is whether people having a PMO community of practice, or whether they're actually doing one with combined with the delivery team. So sometimes it's quite nice to kind of kind of be quite insular and kind of looking from a PMO perspective, kind of where we're at. But I think, you know, what came out certainly when we've done the House of Parliament one, actually trying to get, and actually the APM event as well, actually trying to get those kind of different views and different perspectives adds greatly to the conversation and the challenges that we face, and understanding how different people can perceive what we do in the PMO and vice versa. So I think it's, I want to see more of those, and particularly as we're coming up to the International PMO Day, which is only next Tuesday. Week on Tuesday. Is it week on Tuesday? Oh my days, week on Tuesday. So we're only about 10 days away. So it'd be really interesting to find out what you're doing with your community of practice in terms of celebrating that International PMO Day. And if you want us to get involved, get in touch.
Yeah, excellent. I'll put the link in for that shortly. But one of mine, actually, from the Parliament event, and the one that I really wanted to go and sit down and listen into, was from John Oliver, who is at the University of Bournemouth. He specialises in future thinking and scenario planning, and he shared some really short, succinct session. But it caught my eye, and I also just asked him if he wouldn't mind giving me his research papers that he's written more recently as well. So I'm going to dig deep into some of those things. I think I'd love to try and get John to come and talk to us. But here's something to just go and check out straight away. I wasn't aware of it. Again, government tend to put out a lot of great documents for us PPM people, but this one might have slipped through the net. It's the Futures Toolkit. So just go on to .gov.uk, just do a quick search for Futures Toolkit and start having a look at it. But yeah, really fascinating, and not just about scenario planning in terms of, the numbers and things that we tend to look at when we're looking at, portfolios and all that kind of thing. This is, again, more thinking about, how the more creative side as well. So, there's a lot of stuff in there, and I just thought it was fascinating. But again, been hearing a lot about scenario planning, certainly yesterday at Project Challenge as well. If you're going in any of the tool providers at the moment, it seems to be one of those topics about, that looking further ahead. So yeah, that's my hot right now. So what about when the temperatures drop in? John, this is yours. Data without stories.
So people that know me know that I love a good dashboard. I really do. But what I've seen just several times in the last week and a half, I've seen that people spend a lot of time on building out Power BI dashboards that are presented in meetings without any context or story around them. And you've probably seen these kind of meetings where it appears on a page and there's a whole load of graphs and things moving around, and there's no words, and everyone looks at it and goes, okay, right. It's good to see we've got that, and then we move on to the next slide. It's like, and if you recognize those moments happening, then I think it's the PMO's responsibility to actually sort of firstly just challenge everybody nodding sagely at the numbers, but actually challenge people to think about what they're telling you and ask those silly questions. What is this telling us? What actions should we be taking? So watch out for those kind of ta-da, sage nodding, and then moving on to the next slide. Do ask those questions. And if your PMO is responsible for creating these dashboards, and a lot of PMOs are, you need to work out what the story is that you want to communicate and actually make sure that story is wrapped around it. So here's our dashboard, here's what it's telling us, and here's the action that we are going to take off the back of it. Because if that dashboard is not driving decisions, then it's no more than kind of fancy wallpaper in your office, right? It needs to be there to drive decisions and help effective decision making in the organization. So yeah, pretty dashboards without stories are my very not hot right now.
Well, just before we move on to Eileen's, all these images, apart from obviously the one that I took from the event, are all generated by AI. So this is Mid-Journey. And do you know what are really funny? Let me just show you this one. I put in storyteller, nothing else, and it came up with this rather amazing picture. Look at that old fella. Look at the fish who he's telling the story to. What's going on?
Amazing.
I know, but I just literally just put in storyteller. It's anyway. Here's Eileen's generated one. It's the Elements.
Oh, I got wet yesterday. We came out of Project Challenge and it was raining, and this whole kind of I don't get me wrong, I absolutely love getting out and about again, but I was just quite perturbed that here we are sitting towards the end of April looking me in the face and I'm still getting wet. So I was very kind of uncomfortable, kind of running with all my bags and no umbrella up.
Yeah. Desperate times, I think, you for that. Not right now. The weather, typically British, but there you go. And mine's actually continuous improvement, and the fact that we're not doing continuous improvement, because I think I've been hearing a lot more stories recently about how PMOs are not going well, and they're not, that they're closing down, or they're being disbanded, or there are stories there that things are not going well, and I think one of the main underlying things of it is that PMOs have got to keep changing, and that's come up in conversations. It came up on the sessions this week, and again, maybe it's about time for us, because we know that HotHouse is also about generating some ideas about what can we do and delve into more deeply. I think this is probably a subject where we can delve deeply to understand, how does a PMO continuously improve? There are different techniques and processes and frameworks and things like that can help our thinking. And I think that's certainly one that I would like to see as a future House of PMO session. But yeah, there you go. There's a great image there of cycles, change, futures, all of that kind of stuff, and that's what AA came up with. So thank you very much, guys, for this this mum's hot and not. Let's move it. A different poll of the month this month. We've been running PMO pets all this month, which you might think, this is crazy. I mean, what we're doing, this is, we're all professionals. But you know what's been really interesting to hear is how many people are now working at home who actually see their pets as, they're a colleague in a lot of ways. They're talking to them, they're getting involved, they're there for a bit of stress release. It's getting them away from my desk. It's, all of that kind of good stuff. But we started this little competition basically to win some free tickets for the PMO conference, and came up with PMO pets because it is actually National Pet Month all the way through April. So there was some kind of rhyme and reason for it. So we are going to do a poll, and we're going to do it through chat. So we're not going to do it through the Zoom thing. You are going to see some cats, then you're going to see some dogs. We didn't get anything else other than cats and dogs. And you're going to see a number. So if you're more of a cat person, you might want to look at those a little bit more closely. If you're more a dog person, you might want to have a look at those. And you are going to have to just, put your number in chat, but don't press return just yet. Let's have a look. Here's our little furry, four-legged, sassy, as I think some of them were called. I mean, look at number 4, not happy whatsoever. Number 7, looking quite majestic there. Number 6, feeling a little shy. But these are all, our PMO colleagues out there. These are their lovely pride and joy that keep them going through their work every day when they're working at home. So have a look there for the cats. If you like the cats and you picked one, just stick your number in chat, but don't press return just yet. Let's have a look at the dogs. I feel like that song should come on. We'll let the dogs out. Here we go. So here's the four-legged friends of the barking variety, but again, are keeping us sane in these times where we're working at home and perhaps not getting away from the desk as much as we should do. And it's these guys that are pouring, that are like saying, come on, it's walk time. Yes, yours did, Carol. You're number 19. Can you see? Not that I should have told anybody that, because they might feel swayed now that Carol's is actually there and she's on this call. But there you go. Can you see the numbers? I'm sorry, that one right at the end of the top corner is number 9. The reason why that's been split, it's actually one PMO team, 4 of them put their pictures up, 2 dogs, 2 cats. So that's number 9. Okay, are you ready? Are you ready? Have you made your selections? Yes. Okay, can you see the number in chat? Press return and let it go. Excellent. So you've got people that are a bit of a cat and a dog. Absolutely fine. We're going to tot all that up because you guys have now just picked the first conference ticket winner. So we'll be putting that out later today when we've added the numbers up. You're listening to and watching this live right now. Put it in the comments and we'll be including your vote as well. So nice, isn't it? Nice little segment, I think that. Yeah. Excellent.
Are we allowed to bring the animals to the conference?
Yes. I'm not even going to bother checking whether that's allowed, but we're in the hot seat. And John's brought a lovely guest for us this week, this month. John, over to you.
Yeah, so this is look at that, Naily. You got a proper page and everything. So yeah, we've got Naily with us today. We worked together back in 2019. It was with we were both with investors in people and doing some work there. And we've sort of stayed in touch ever since. Naily is a consultant. She's come from a sort of software engineering background, but has then gone through project management, product management, all manner of sort of business hustling and getting stuff done. But she also runs a podcast and for startup organizations and tends to work with the sort of very, very small business in the early stages. And podcast is called the Mary Poppins of Mary Poppins of startups. So I'll just share a link for that for you in chat. But I wanted to bring Naily along for a chat because I was kind of interested in understanding how sort of project management and PMO works when you've got small businesses and whether it's useful for them. And then I guess what we can learn from sort of these kind of entrepreneurs as well. So Naily, hi, how are you doing?
I'm all right, John. I'm all right. Definitely enjoying the sun in Madrid, so I can't even complain about that.
Oh, you're making me jealous now in cloudy Greenwich. I didn't want to hear how nice the weather was down your way. So obviously you work with a lot of sort of small businesses, and they tend to bring you in when they've got some sort of issues to solve with how they're delivering things or how they're organizing their projects. What sort of things do you see with those small businesses that a sort of PMO or project professional could help with?
I guess for me, one of the things I see the PMO can bring to startup is kind of the glue between all of the different parts of the organization, and not just the glue, but a way of getting them to slow down and understand what they're doing, why they're doing it, how to maximize it and benefit from it. Now, in another way, I could say helping them to increase the maturity level of the organizations and the way they run projects. What's tend to happen in startups, especially once they've landed a big round of funding, they need to start delivering to clients very quickly. They still need to work on internal projects for the platform. It can be quite a mess. And this idea of managing projects, even for some people, they don't even really grasp the difference between BAU, right, and project work. And what does it actually mean? What is the impact on the resources? How do we learn from the way maybe one team could be doing something and then share it with the other ones? The other thing is a lot of tech startups really love the word agile without understanding how to do agile properly. And then agile doesn't actually mean a lack of planning. So when you speak to those companies, when they're first starting in tech, is agile, okay, let's just go and do things. When they start to work with clients, they need to understand how can we adapt what we're doing in the way that we also need to work with clients. So I think there's a big I always advise them, whether it's a project manager that can help or someone with a PMO background that can come in, especially when they grow very quickly, even just as a consultancy, can help them to really get their head around that as well. My favorite one, I think a bit of hand-holding will be quite nice because, you know, we all work with projects. So for us, we kind of know how to start thinking ahead and risks and other things. Most people, they think that they've planned, but they always plan on the best case scenario, which is great. But life doesn't go according to the best case scenario. So this idea of even helping with risk planning, which for me is something that I will think very, very quickly. For others, they might not. And the second part is dead documentations. So you get teams that get excited, they're pumped up, they go in a meeting, they plan, they've got their risks, they've got all of the assessment, everything that they've done, decisions, all of that. But nobody slows down to go and update documentations. And later on, the same thing is being discussed many times. There's no records of it. And whenever you try to introduce that, you get a bit of a, we busy kind of mentality. So it's how do you explain to them that this idea of managing project is not to turn your organization into like, implementing full PMP or Prince2, but to get the best processes from all of that into your organization so that you can actually move faster, even if you think that it will slow you down. So yes, for me, those are the key things. The one thing I could also add is a bit of accountability, especially at the beginning of the process. There's this thing about we've always done it this way. We've always delivered to our customers that way, right? That's all well and good. But if you are getting a large number of customers and things are not going well, especially if you're working on an integration project, so you have some teams that work on a data science part, some teams that work on implementations, and they not usually talk to each other. And having someone that comes with the mindset of what is it that the business needs, and then look into why are they doing this way? Is there a better way of doing that? And again, sharing information within the team can even streamline the projects. And well, at the end of the day, they save more money because of that.
Wow. So I'm curious. I mean, loads of stuff there really resonated, especially the idea of sort of being the glue that holds it all together in those organizations. But one thing, when you talked about sort of helping them sort of slow down in order to then end up going faster, what kind of reaction do you get when you go into a small business and you look at what they're doing and they feel they need to do more, and your first conversation is, okay, we need to slow down, we need to do some documentation, we need some structure? Well, what sort of reaction do you tend to get to that?
Frustration, of course, which makes sense. Why the hell should I slow down when I've got, tons of other things to do? And I guess, I've had that in one of the company I work for, they actually delivered to a client, and it was a bit of a headache because they needed to continue improving the platform specifically for that client, yet they had no resources, and they didn't even understand how we built the platform in the first place, because all of the latest resources was based on another version of the platform. So it's really about a bit of coaching, talking to the leaders of different teams, explaining the pros and cons and the benefits. And also, especially when I have the chance to work with the client, also have the negotiation to explain to them, the project is now being late, right? So another good thing is definitely looking at data of how we've been running projects, how long is it taking, why is it that you're doing the same thing? Well, technically doing the same thing because you're meant to be integrating with other platforms. You're doing it over and over again, yet you never reach any of your targets that you've described. Some of them don't even know that they've never paid attention to the metrics that goes on with delivering or running a project. So trying to work with them and get as much metrics as I can, or the reasons why there's the lack of metrics could be impacting them, and showing them, really helps. Goes back to what you're talking earlier about the dashboard and visualization. I try to find as many example things that they can feel and see and to explain why we need to slow down. Then when it comes to documentation part of it, it's definitely not the case of let's drop everything and document. Is whether we start documenting from where we are today and going forward, or going backwards. So the way I would put it, especially if we do kind of sprints, I would say, okay, how about we do a sprint work for 1 week where we had X amount of time designated for that. We work as a team, turning into a bit of a game, getting people to have this sense of we're doing it together helps to have a bit more buy-in. But yes, you're always going to get a pushback at the beginning.
But then you eventually get that kind of light bulb moment where they suddenly see, actually, by doing that and narrowing our focus on things, you actually do tend to start seeing them hitting their goals, and then that realization comes in, which is amazing. Yeah. Can we flip this around, because we've got a lot of PMO people on the call. We've been talking about what you can do and how we bring some of the PMO stuff into these small businesses to help them sort of slow down to speed up, as it were. But what about the other way around? What can we as PMO people learn from these startups, from these entrepreneurs that are spinning up these small companies and going fast? Is there anything that we as professionals can take away from how they run their businesses?
Yeah, I would definitely say being more agile and really promoting a bit more innovation. When I first started my journey in project management as technical project manager, I was working at Siemens, And he was actually very interested when they're starting running large projects across continents and across different teams. You could see that every single team worked differently. And there's very little awareness of what is it that you even do as a team in the first place. And especially when you have projects where teams work together, I feel like, how can PMOs help? Because PMOs, depending on the organization, you might have different groups of PMOs, or you have one that looks over the whole thing. So you have an overview and understanding of the pain points of each teams. Those teams will need to communicate and work with each other. But is there a way where, as I was mentioning, PMO being the glue, to really bring them together to speed up innovation and to remove like documentation and our processes are great, but sometimes, how can we have that in mind as we're moving forward? I think another thing, was Linda, you mentioned this continuous improvement aspect of things. I think that is also very important. How do we experiment based on the way that we work? And how do we share information that we know has worked for maybe one PMO in this part of the organization to transfer to the other PMO, even if on the surface of things you think the industry may be very different, or what they do is different. By the end of the day, the best practices are the same, and there's a lot you can learn. But of course, in large organizations, silos get created very quickly. So I believe that helping break the silos, bringing people together really is very important. I guess one example, I think, John, remember when we worked together on investments in people, one of the biggest issues was product and marketing departments. Even when they were planning together, they were not really talking about how they work. Why is this important to us? Why is it that as product people, we need to have marketing assistance for a certain part of our project? So when I got the role, one of the sessions I was, let's come in, let's learn what marketing do. What are your processes? How do you track projects? We learn from you and you learn from us. That helped my team, the product team, to think, okay, well, we need to let marketing know way in advance. How can we put that information in our plans? Because we always assume that whenever we need something, we just talk to marketing and says, by the way, we need it in a couple of weeks. I'm like, well, they also have a life and other things that they do as part of their projects, right? So having that way of really getting the teams to talk to each other, which I know the other question is, again, time. How do we do that? But I think that is something that I've seen works a lot better in small organizations, but the bigger the organization, the more difficult it is. And that's where PMO could make a difference. So
you'd say if somebody was working maybe in an IT PMO, we'd be saying actually go out, meet your marketer. We seem to stick with marketing, but go out and meet the marketing team, find out what they do, what makes them tick, and what's important to them, because it will help you help your project managers, help your projects running. And then it's coming back to that word you used earlier, that being that glue that kind of holds the organization together, right?
Yes, exactly.
Fantastic. So I'm curious if anyone on here has actually done that, come out of their department and sort of parachuted into another one to get a feeling for what they're doing. I'd love you to tell us about it in the chat. We often view the PMO as being the ones that like gather reports and share reports, but what you're actually talking about is building relationships between people. Would you say that's kind of a core thing that the PMO should be doing, building those relationships and building those internal networks in organizations?
Yeah, I feel so. I mean, even when I wear my hat as a project manager, I think sometimes when we talk about, PMOs, there is a lot of emphasis on the paperwork, which again, as I say, is important, especially when we talk about the maturity of a company. Without the paperwork, paper trail, it can get messy. But I think the strength for me lies in the people aspect of things, being able to motivate them, being able to share knowledge, being able to get them to work in different ways, where there's a lot of negotiation involved. And I'm sure many of you have felt the pain of working with different teams or larger teams and all of those kind of things. And I think that's the part of PMOs that people need to shout out more, and value more. It's easy to see things breaking when there's nothing, but once you bring PMOs involved and things start going well, people get, complacent because they don't understand what you guys have been doing in the background and running like crazy to get everything to work really well. So then you cut out PMOs and then things go bad and you wonder, what just happened? I'm like, well, where do we start,
Yeah, absolutely with you. It's yeah, I'm just keeping a conscious eye on time as well, because I could talk about this for hours. But I love that idea of the bringing negotiation skills and all those kind of ideas. And so I guess that's something we can get from entrepreneurs, that idea of bringing people together, building up our negotiation skills, and trying to take people forward in sort of one direction. Are there any, if we could bring it down to sort of, I guess, what if we had sort of one tip that we could give to PMO people that they should take away from this, from the entrepreneurial mindset, what would it be? One tiny one-liner to take away.
I would say experiments, even when things are going well. You know, because the world moves very quickly. There's always new technology. You know, when you talk about dashboard, John, when I met you, you were using these tools that by now I'm sure new tools have come out. So there's always room for experimentation, as again is the way to push innovation forward.
I love that. I mean, I love experimentation, but I love that the important point you made there: experiment even when things are going well, because I think so often in the PMO world we can get to the point where we believe we've got the processes just right, everything, and then we relax. And as you say, a year down the line, people have moved on, the tools, the technology have moved on, new things have come in, the organization is working differently. And that's where, if the PMO isn't continuously experimenting, isn't, to go back to Lindsay's point, doing that continuous improvement, you suddenly end up with a PMO that's not aligned with the business anymore and can even be holding it back, which is where we suffer. Naily, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing those insights. We've got you on screen again there. The link to the podcast is there. If you want to reach out to Naily and connect directly, I've just shared her LinkedIn in the chat there, so do reach out to her. She is lovely and full of fascinating insights into not just PMO stuff, but actually working with entrepreneurs and small businesses as well. Thank you ever so much.
Yeah, and
thanks for having me.
I think the key word there as well in the chat is the energy. Well done.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
We all need that. I think we're all needing a bit of that. Well, I certainly am needing a bit of that today. So great to have that. Contagious.
Thank you very much. We're coming towards the end of the sessions, and we always
flown by again.
I know, we always have a little bit of a wrap up, going out on a blaze of glory. You see, that's the connection there, in case you didn't get it. I'd written loads of stuff down there. There's certainly Aaron had put in there about his data journey. That's reminded me again of the Inside PMO report we did about AI, about we need to be thinking about data literacy as a first step, which ties into what APM were talking about the other day. They were also at the community event talking about what's important to them and what they're focusing on. And it certainly came up there as well about data literacy, rather than jumping straight into the, getting into the data analytics stuff. Other things that I put there is that I think there's definitely the continuous improvement stuff to take further, linking it back to what Naily's just talked there. I'm glad you made that link, John, because I'd done exactly the same thing. There's also, other things from me was I really do want to pull out that scenario planning, future thinking stuff, and see what we can pinch from there. So that's mine. Look, yeah, loads of stuff, and yeah, great. Really enjoyed that. How about you, Eileen, John? Anything else to add?
Well, I dropped in there and chat. Interesting, kind of Naily's last word was experimentation, and one of the things we did identify when we did the competency framework, and I think, John, you've been a proponent of this, as Naily said, for a long time, is this kind of innovation about how we can use things in the organizations. And one of the things that we always encourage people to do is to just keep yourself out there, find out what's happening in the industry, what other people are doing, kind of network, so you can actually take things back into your organization and try them out. And one of the things we also talk about is actually we should be exemplars of kind of how projects are delivered. So the things that we implement in the PMO, we should be trying these new ways of doing things, new tools, to be able to demonstrate to the rest of the delivery teams how they can be embedded in our existing framework, or perhaps how our existing framework needs to move forward, back to that kind of continuous improvement piece.
Great advice, absolutely spot on.
Okay, so we're at the end of the session. We've got other stuff coming up as ever. It's as I said, it's International PMO Day coming up on the 9th of May. We can't wait. I think as Annette had written in the comments there, I'm going to go and do a little thing to somebody for their team meet. We've got a live stream session as well here for House of PMO at 12 noon in the UK, and then we've got you know, some internal it's kind of full member event, which is the PMO Career Hour. And then we've got governance and assurance, both of the, you know, the two what I call heavyweight subjects. But again, they're coming up during May as well. And of course, we've got the conference. It is the last few days of the early bird tickets, and it's going exceptionally well. We're really pleased to see pre-pandemic numbers yet again. So it's going to be a fantastic day, and hope you can join us. So that's it for today. We hope you're going to be keep on PMOing, I think, is the take care. We'll see you again soon.
Thanks, everyone. Take care. See you next time.
Thanks, everyone.